Okay, hello everyone. So we're working on clue 3 this week, and you've got your 80 stitches joined in the round, and we're going to go ahead and get started on working the um, pattern itself. And the clue for this week is a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing, which I have a really long, I didn't realize I had such a long tail. Anyway, so a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing. Anytime you alternate continuously between knit and purl, it's going to create ribbing. And ribbing is great for things like cuffs and brims, because it gets stretched and then it shrinks back on itself so that it fits the joints and stuff. So it's great for cuffs, and it's great to go on the brims of hats and stuff because of that, because of the stretch and shrink. A knit 2 purl 2 is pretty standard. Knit 1 purl 1 is kind of a hassle, but can be really awesome because it's got a little extra shrink on it. And there's, variations on like knit 3 purl 2 or whatever. It just depends on the look you want the ribbing to have when you're done. Okay, so pardon me. I'm sorry. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So make sure that your working yarn is attached to your right hand needle. And the reason for that is because you want to make sure that you don't end up with a gap here. So I know that this looks like it's a big gap, and it does look like it's a big gap, but it's not really. It won't be. It just looks that way. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and it's knit 2 purl 2, so I'm going to knit 2. In this first stitch, I'm going to go ahead and pull. I want to pull that working yarn. I want to make sure that that is as tight as I can make it, and then I'm going to work that second stitch. I'm going to knit that. I'm going to pull that, and then I'm going to go ahead and purl. I'm going to go back to my regular tension now. And the reason I did that is because I want to make sure I've got a nice tight connection there, because this is the first row. The first row is kind of a pain. You want to make sure that you've got the connection you need for it. Now, one thing I didn't mention before is that you're going to want to mark somehow that this is the beginning of your row. I typically, because I'm lazy and because I know what I'm doing, use the working yarn, or not the working yarn, the tail as an indicator. But when you get a little further up, it's going to be a little confusing. So you can use a scrap of thread or yarn from another project, make a little loop out of it and hook it on here, or you can use an actual stitch marker. It just depends on your preference. I don't actually have one handy, go figure. So I'm just gonna keep going, but you're always gonna want to make sure that this, that this is the beginning of your round. So if you got a stitch marker, use it. If you don't, I suggest making one out of some scrap yarn or something bright. You want something bright, so just so that it's not too much bigger than your needles, but not too small to fit on them. And it's just going to be something that goes around. A lot of people use paper clips or safety pins. Even safety pins are really useful for that. Just something that goes around the needle. You don't want to knit into it. You want to make sure it's just between the stitches to mark the beginning / end of your round. Okay? So we're going to keep going here. So knit. Purl. And that's really all it is. That's all we're doing here. We're going to keep going around and around and around. Knit, purl, well, knit, knit, purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl. Until we have 5 inches. 5 inches, or was it? No, I'm sorry, 1.5 inches of rows tall. So I'm going to go ahead and knit that, or at least knit a couple rows. And you're going to do the same. Ooh. As you go around, you'll find that you've gotten a little tight in areas, and that's okay. I mean, ribbing is very forgiving like that. So just keep going around and around. Make sure that you've got 2 and 2 as you go. It's easy to check. You can always just check by looking and saying, okay, I've got a purl bump and a purl bump. So there's 2, and then it's a knit and a knit. That's a purl bump and a purl bump. That's a knit and a knit. So you'll know where you're at. So now I've got a purl 2. Knit, purl. Get to the end of this round here. Pardon me. Holiday weekend. Someone has been sleeping a lot. I'm not gonna say who, but I'll give you 3 guesses. Sorry, I'm trying to keep the knitting on the camera. I'm trying to keep it so y'all can see what I'm doing. Assuming that you're even paying attention to me. You know, sometimes I wonder if I shouldn't edit these things, but I find myself also wondering that if I did try to edit these things, I would probably delete them all. I would probably not go through with this, so I just keep going, assuming you'll watch the whole thing, because I simply do not want to watch myself. It makes me nervous, and I'm pretty sure I would delete it. At least it's not my face. So, alright, I'm nearing the end of my round here. So you can see I have the working yarn in sight. You may have a stitch marker in sight. Whatever made you feel comfortable. And I'm going to show you something. You're going to be super surprised at how very simple the transition between one row and the next is, uh-oh, well, I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. Somewhere down the line I did one too many knits or one too many purls or something. Don't know which. Something. Although this should be, well, that's the end. There we go. Okay, so that's the end of my round. Ta-da! Because I've got my doohickey here. And then I just keep going. Knit, knit, purl, purl. It's that simple. That is why working in the round is so nice, because you just keep going. You don't have to do a lot of work. And so you're just going to keep going until you get 1.5 inches of rows tall. I don't know how many rows that'll be for you. It doesn't matter. Just measure when you think you're around 1.5. If you get too many, not a big deal. Don't rip it. Just leave it. If you have too few, keep going. And when you're done, you've finished clue 3. So good job on you. All right. We'll see you next time.